Hello folks, you're listening to your favourite sports betting podcast, A Mug's Game, with your hosts, Smeg and Ronnie.
It's good to be back, Smeg. It's Ronnie here, and our sole focus today is on the Australian Open, which gets underway in Melbourne on Monday morning, or for us here in Ireland, very late Sunday night. In this podcast, I'll take a backseat role as Smeg gives us a quality lowdown on the first real big sporting tournament of 2019. It just happens to be his forte, and with 25 points being staked by him, this isn't a podcast to be missed. Before we get stuck into it, Smeg, you had a half point each way on our Twitter page flagged up during the week on Dutch woman Kiki Bertens to win in Sydney at 100 to 1.
Yeah, 100 to 1. She got beaten in a very, very close match against Dash Barty, 7-5 in the third set. It was looking quite good. She won the first set in the tiebreaker, and it was, you know, she was looking strong, but Barty came through in the end. She's a pretty classy player, Barty. But yeah, so basically what we did there is, in a situation like that, when she's, you know, when you've got a semi-final at 100 to 1, I think if they get to the semi-final, I think the most prudent thing, both financially and even emotionally, is to offer a cover bet there. So
well, you certainly offered a cover bet. 14-point bet on Barty to covered.
Yeah, well, you can afford to. You could afford to do it, because if Barty were to beat Burton's, our girl Burton's, we'd still make a 7-point profit out of it.
Yeah.
And then also, if not, you make an 11-point profit on Burton's just making the final, with a chance to make
more, to make the big one.
15, to make a really big one. So you have to make something out of it. But as we say, like it just goes to show that, you know, when you think about Burton's being 100 to 1 with Paddy Power, like it just simply was a mistake. You know, if you look at so many of the other main betting outlets like Bet365, Sky Bet, TalkSport, she was around the 18 to 1, 16 to 1, 20 to 1.
Well, that's interesting, because if you, I would say, I haven't done a poll on it, but if we did one, I would say 90% of our listeners, certainly our Irish listeners, are Paddy Power customers if they bet. So you were saying our Power is generally a bit more generous with tennis betting?
Yeah, well, I'm almost a little bit reluctant to let this out into the open, but really last year we did make a good bit of hay with Paddy Power, because they're making, in their tennis outrights, they're making a lot of mistakes. Even the other bets that we lost, for example, I also tipped up Rublev at 50s. I didn't tip up Yastremski because her price had already changed, but like Rublev was 50s and he was about 14s everywhere else.
Yeah,
Yastremski was 50s, she was about same 12s, 14s everywhere else. So, you know, they're making some. It's just one to watch out for yourselves. You know, when I catch them, I'll spread the word.
Now, what you said about when you covered the Burton's bet in the semi-final stage, that made sense, because as you said, it was guaranteed 7 points profit, which is, you know, 7 points is huge. But I suppose people sometimes can get confused between doing that and actually the cash out option, which is, you see, especially over Christmas, the advertising by the bookies, especially Powers, actually, on cash out. And like, for listeners out there, cash out option is a gimmick, isn't it, to do it more than once or twice, depending on the situation, because the bookies, they want you to do it. They want you, you're betting against yourself, and you don't need to do it.
Yeah, of course, because you know, it's amazing the mathematical edge that they have with the cash out option. I think they're playing on people's kind of emotions and their nervousness and stuff like that. Like, I wouldn't have had the option anyway, because I place my bets in the shop anyway, so I don't have I don't have a Paddy Power online account.
Yeah.
But like, just for example, I have a little we have a betting group. A few of my friends have a betting group, and we backed Brendan Dolan in the darts at 251 to win his quarter.
Yeah.
So when he got to the quarter final, it was Aspinall, I think it was last.
Aspinall, yeah.
Yeah, so Aspinall was 8 to 13, right?
He got hammered, Dolan, didn't he?
Dolan got hammered, yeah. He got hammered in the final. But Aspinall was 8 to 13, and so the cash out option for us, you know, considering it was to win €2,500 and Dolan was only 6 to 5 to win the match, the cash out option was €913.
There you go. Yeah.
So if you do the maths on that, okay, especially in these two, I don't know regarding soccer. I don't know. I'm sure that they're ripping us off some way regarding other sports like soccer and golf and stuff like that. Like, but with the cash out option regarding 2-horse races like darts, tennis, snooker, or whatever, you know, the best thing to always do, if you are worried about your players, if you don't really fancy them to come through their quarterfinal or semi-final or anything like that, or their match even, never use the cash out option, use the bet. Because what we did there, we did the maths. If you put €1,500 on Aspinall at 8-13, you end up winning just over 920 quid, right?
Yeah.
And so in that case, if you put the €1,500 on Aspinall, okay, you win 900, and he wins, you win €920.
Yeah.
But if Dolan wins, you win £1,000.
Yeah.
So cashing out on Aspinall makes no sense.
Yeah.
Because you're basically it's the same. You make a little bit more on betting on him, and then you're also free rolling for an extra 100 quid.
Yeah. You better to let it ride.
Better to cover. I'd say better to, if you want to cover, don't use the cash out option. Back the opposite player, because you'll get a better value from it.
Yeah, well, even I've seen like there's an example there a few months ago. Say I like watching it now. So say if €50 on a 3-1, whatever it might be, on a 3-1 bet, and that 3-1 comes into 9-4 before the off, or whatever it might be. Let's just say that your cash out option will still only be €50, even though your odds have the odds have come in, so you would win that. So it'll still be 50, but if you 50 on a 3-1 shot and it remains 3-1 before the off, your cash out option is generally €45 with them. You know what I mean? That you've lost a fiver.
I'll stop. Yeah,
because
another straight away. If you make a mistake in a bet and you want to cash it out, they're knocking off 5 or 6%.
Exactly. And for lads out there who do a Cume, especially on a Saturday with the soccer and so on, if you have a 7-team Cume, for example, and after 70-75 minutes, 6 teams are winning, or 6 of your 7, whatever your bet is, are up, and you're mating for one team or one goal, whatever it is, and you would, a cash out option, you'd love to. They won't give you that cash out option. It just won't be there the bookies will not risk that in that scenario. So the advice is to then generally stay away from
it. Would they not in that situation like that? I would imagine is that they'd offer you really scabby cash out.
They actually take it down when it's that close. For that, generally a 17 McCune could be worth a nice few hundred, whatever you put on. I've seen 9 times out of 10 they actually won't give you the option. They won't give you the option. Yeah, they won't give you the option there.
So moral of the story anyway is stay away from the cash outs overall if you want to cover back the opposite player or team or whatever.
Well, let's get stuck into this Aussie Open now, Smeg. We'll start off with the men's. Let's have a look at if we we have a look straight away at and I'm going to pick the prices with Paddy Power. Of course, odds checkers out there to check for the best odds, and you will have your bet staked with whatever the best odds are, but I'm just going to go by Power prices, and we look straight away. People without a huge knowledge of tennis like myself would guess what's going on here. Powers of Djokovic is 6-5 favourite, Federer second favourite 4-1, Nadal 7-1, Zverev 12-1, and it's 20s bar after that. So you can see how short those guys look, but if you look at it, the last 15 Australian Opens, amazingly 12 of the 15, this is going right back to 2004, have been won by either Djokovic or Federer. So they've won 6 each. Djokovic won 6 out of 6. Federer's won 6. He's lost 1 final. So they have had almost complete domination over this Grand Slam every January for the last number of years. So I'm just looking at. Miraculously, they've never actually met in a final in this competition. They bypassed each other, and I'm looking at
they played each other 4 times.
Played each other 4 times. Djokovic has won 3 of them, but not in a final. I'm wondering, it's 4-1 with Powers for a Djokovic Federer final, which is the dream final, of course. It hasn't happened. I actually remember the dream final happened in 2009 when I remember well watching on BBC in the Sunday morning where Nadal and Federer, who were at their peak that time, did play in it's Nadal's one victory in it, if you remember, 2009. Great. So we'd love a great final in this. The great final now would be Djokovic Federer. It's 4-1. Is there? They're obviously on the opposite side of draw. So is there some value in that based on the two their records over the last decade? Yeah.
In fairness, I don't absolutely hate the bet, but I wouldn't be going near myself. Obviously with Roger, like he's had so much joy in the last couple of years at the Australian Open. Obviously, particularly the win against Nadal in 2017 was really it sort of cemented his place as the legend, as the GOAT, really, because in his 30s he had been dominated by Novak and Nadal as well. And really was struggling, so that was a big stand for him. But he is getting older. At Wimbledon he lost to Anderson, and he lost to Millman at the US Open. Is he
not better at this time of year, early in the year? Is this the time?
It seems that he is better. It seems that he is better at this time of year. There's no doubt about that. But at the same time, feel like his powers, he's not quite as good. He's not quite as good. Obviously, he played the Hopkins Cup and looked very strong in it, but he doesn't have an easy draw either. I also think that Novak, as good as he is, and he's absolutely the deserved favourite, I think he's still a little bit vulnerable. You know, if you think about it, he lost the Paris final to Karen Khachanov, the type of guy who would never have been losing, in his pomp 4 or 5 years ago. Like, he lost, I'm not saying that Khachanov isn't a very talented and dangerous player, he is, but then, of course, Zverev beat him in the final. Zverev bet Federer and Djokovic at the ATP finals. And even the wins that he had, at Wimbledon, he obviously had that classic match against Rafa in the semi-final, but they weren't the hardest draws he's ever had in the US Open. He was really impressive the US Open. I'm not 100% convinced. Batista beat him in Doha there recently. I don't think 4-1 is value there really overall.
You mentioned Zverev, and I know on a podcast last year you mentioned how you like Zverev, and around the 12-1 mark is there he beat Novak in the ATP World Final, wasn't it? For the year. So is there something in him? Is there a Grand Slam in him? Is there a question mark about him in conditions?
There's certainly a question mark about him in the Grand Slams. So he has really struggled in the Grand Slams. He's never been to a Grand Slam semi-final.
And could there be a fitness issue with him in the heat down here with Zverev?
It's hard to know. I mean, it's there have been times where he's wilted in fifth sets and stuff like that. I know he in 2017 he wilted against Nadal, but he was young then. He should be stronger now. It's really a puzzle. Like, it's very puzzling. He's had some very poor losses in the slams, and at 12-1. Despite how impressive he was in the ATP finals, I just can't be backing that. He still has it all to prove in the Grand Slams. He's got a chance, and he's a class act. But for whatever reason, you can't be backing a guy at 12-1 when he is time and time again failed to produce the goods when expected at Slam level.
Another couple in that you mentioned the young Khachanov who beat Novak for Christmas. Is there a run on him at maybe 25-1 or better in other places?
Oh geez,
too soon?
It might be a bit too soon now. He was so impressive in Paris, it has to be said. He gave Novak a proper beating in Paris, and then as well as that, he played Nadal at the US Open. That was a fantastic match, and it's only for a few. He probably had the edge of Nadal overall from the back of the court. He just kind of lack of experience, had a few untimely double faults and a few unforced errors, and Nadal came through. But at 25-1, once again, he's totally unproven, and he's in Federer's quarter. He'll have to play Cilic in the fourth round. So it's. I can't be backing that.
You mentioned he's going to play Cilic in the fourth round. Now, Cilic, in a way, is more proven. We're number 7. He reached the final this a year ago. He lost to Roger in 5 sets. Did it go to 5 sets?
Yeah.
5 sets. So I'm interested to see Cilic. He was 33-1. He's come in a bit now in powers. He's 25-1 Is that not is that a bit of value for
once
Cilic?
again, I don't hate it, but he is coming here. He's not in the best of form. He's had injury issues towards the end of the year as well. He doesn't have the most kind draw either. So he's got like Bernard Tomic in the first round. Now Tomic, we all know, is a bit of a head case, but he is very, very dangerous guy to be playing in the first round, especially in front of his home crowd. And then he's probably Rublev and either Khachanov or Batista Agut. These are match
dangerous players.
Dangerous players even before he gets the chance to play Roger. And then even if he has to beat Roger to get to the semi-final, so you still haven't won anything there. So I can't be backing that either. I think as good as Cilic is, there's still a lot of question marks, and it's a tough draw. So,
and there's obviously, as you know, Seth, there's a lot of question marks around Nadal, who fans favourite and so on. As third favourite, 7-1, people might think that there's a bit of value in it, but he's been injured again, hasn't he?
Yeah. Well, he says he's quoted as saying, "I'm 100% sound fit and ready for the Australian Open." So generally, he's probably, I'd say, what Nadal is doing is he was just making sure that he was fully ready, because he knows in the back of his head that he's only got a finite amount of time to catch Roger. So
that's. Is there an outright one that you fancy that you're not too optimistic about as regards from a betting point of view, of course, on some of those players? Is there any? Is there?
Yeah.
Is one? I know I said at the start of the podcast you've 25 points staked. Is there any of them on an outright?
To be honest with you, it's, you know, the one thing about men's tennis, you know, as brilliant as it has been, you know, as brilliant as Djokovic and Federer and Nadal and even Murray, and we'll talk about him later, have been, and the brilliance that they've brought us in those great finals and classic. You know, if anything, I'm not being biased here. I think tennis, if anything, during that era has been the most consistent product regarding producing classic finals out of any other sport. I think, you know, that when Nadal, Federer, Djokovic and these guys have been involved in finals, it's been classic. But anyway, to get into the point, it's been it's a great era for tennis, but a nightmare as a punter, because you can never really pick out these outright value bets because you know these guys are going to be in the final each time, you know. So, but I do fancy one outright bet.
Okay.
Look, I just think it's a good price. I think it's a good price, and it is on the Austrian clay court specialist, but he can also play on hard court. I think we all know who we're talking about, is Dominic Thiem.
Yeah.
Now the reason I like Thiem, at 50 to 1, I think it's a big price at 50 to 1, is because out of all these young guns, I mean, we were including Zverev and you know, like we talked about Dimitrov, Koric, you know, Kachanov, all these young guns. He's actually the only one of them that has actually broken through and made a Grand Slam final. You know, he can.
He was in the French last year, wasn't it?
French, yeah. I know it's clay court. You know, he was in the French Open last year, and obviously Nadal beat him, but he has beaten Nadal in clay a few times. But he made the French Open final last year. He is not afraid to go deep. He's not afraid to go deep, and he will perform when he gets into the latter stages of a Grand Slam. At the US Open this year, I know the conditions are a little bit different. At the US Open this year, he played the classic. He beat Anderson, of course, in the fourth round comfortably. You know, and that's a big win. That was a really good win. And then he played a classic 5-set match that ended up 7-6 to Nadal in the quarterfinals. And that was really high standard. And I remember watching that match. And actually, in fact, we had Nadal tipped up at 5-6 to win that quarter. I was thinking that it was a soft quarter, and boy, was that was an example of a bad bet winning. You know, at 5-6. But
now, he hasn't gone past the fourth round, has he?
No, he's got to the quarterfinals. But at the Australian Open, not past the fourth round.
Yeah.
But look, he is quoted as saying, I was reading a quote from his coach that he wasn't, feeling a little bit tired the last few days. He doesn't like the dry air of Australia, and that's worth pointing out that he doesn't like. But I've seen a few videos of him preparing, and he seems to be very motivated. And also going through his draw here, Pair is the first round. Pair can be tricky enough, but he's a bit of a head case. He should be able to get through Pair. Then he's got maybe Poppy Ran. Lucas Pouille, who's in terrible form, is the potential third round matchup. So first 3 rounds are very, very gettable, and then it's Borna Koric. Koric has failed to produce the goods in the Grand Slams. Over 5 sets, I'd fancy Thiem. And then we're talking maybe Zverev in the quarterfinals. Now he beat Zverev in the French Open handily, but this is the hard court. You'd have to fancy Zverev there. But Zverev, you know, he's coming in with injury concerns. You know what he's like at Grand Slams. He might not even make it there. So the only thing I would say is that obviously Djokovic awaits in the semi-final. So,
and tell us where he's 41 with powers. Where are you batting with?
50 to 1 with Sky Bet. 50 to 1 with Sky Bet.
Okay, fair enough. So what are we staking on that, Smeg?
Staking a half point each way.
Half point each way on Dominic Thiem at 50 to 1 with Sky Bet outright.
And we hope to God he doesn't have to play Novak in the semi-final, but it's likely. But I just think that the price is still too big.
Yeah, I suppose you mentioned there a second ago, we can't leave the men's outright market certainly without mentioning Andy Murray after his press conference yesterday, where he very emotionally broke down. He's basically just about to retire. His hip is goosed. As regards the stick he gets in general, and for his demeanour, and he just hasn't been the most liked character, certainly in comparison to those other legends of last few years. He deserves a huge amount of respect, doesn't he, for what he's done? Like, it's nine Grand Slam finals the man's been in the most competitive era of the sport.
In the brutal era. Of course. And but think about it. I'd say we even didn't like him at the start because I think he used to be a bit cocky when he humble off court, but very cocky on court. I didn't like his demeanour on court myself. But look, I think I think the way he off the court, the way he talks so respectfully about the other players. His fighting spirit on the court. He's just been such a great role model, and like what a legend of the game, really.
What a career! Like 9 grand, including he's won 3.
Especially the era that he's been in. He's beaten Djokovic in the final of Wimbledon. So
he deserves a lot more respect than he has amongst everyone. I
think history will be kind to him. He's getting a lot of love from all the ex-players. I think history will be kind to him. Look, he's won the BBC Sports Player of the Year as well twice.
2 Olympic medals as well.
2 Olympic gold medals. Like what a career.
Okay, Smeg, will we move on to the outright market in the women's, which is certainly a lot more open, as we mentioned in some of our podcasts last year. I think the women's, if you look at it, I was looking at the odds, and between say odds of 10 and 20 to 1, there's actually 8 women in that bracket in those odds, whereas there's only 2 men, which shows you the difference in the levels of the playing field. So if we look at the women's over 2017, 2018, there's been 8 Grand Slams, obviously 4 each year. In the women's, there's been 8 different winners in the last 2 years, and out of those 8, there's been 5. 5 of those 8 were first-time winners. So that would suggest that we don't have to be too concerned whether a girl has great, Grand Slam results behind her. You know what I mean? There's value there to be got, and I wonder, can we get her? Obviously, Serena it goes off as favourite, as she has done. She came back last year, reached the Wimbledon US Open final, but lost both of them. She's 9-2 favourite with Powers. Then you've got Wimbledon champion Angelique Kerber as 6-1, and there's kind of a big gulp then to girls like Sabalenka, Svitolina, US Open champion, of course, Naomi Osaka, Australian, we mentioned her before, Ashley Barty, and Pliskova, and world number 1 Halep, Kvitova, and right up as far as Wozniacki, the defending champion, at 20 to 1. These are the players up to that 20 to 1 mark. I just want to mention one thing about Kerber, who is the Wimbledon champion. I was interested to see that she's with Powers. She's 16-5 to reach a final for a woman who's won this before. She's won this in 2016, and she's got 3 Grand Slams now with her Wimbledon victory over Serena last year. Is there a bit of value in 16-5 to reach the final?
It's hard to know. She looks to be in good form at the start of the season. I think with Kerber, I just like to. I think sometimes it's better unless you have a very nice price for like last year at Wimbledon, we were on her at 16-1 to win it, but at 6-1. I think,
I'm saying 16-5 to reach the final.
16-5. Well, 16-5 to reach is a better price than 6-1 to win it.
It's a special with Power, so it's better back in each way. Absolutely.
Oh no, I don't think you can get 16-5 each way to reach the final. I doubt that.
It is. It's a special with Powers. It's there.
16-5 each way. So if you
16-5 to reach the final.
Oh, 16-5 to reach the final. Yeah. So look, I think with Kerber, I just prefer. I think it's a very short price. It's a very skinny price. Look,
Fair
there's
enough.
There's a lot of quality players in her half as well.
Okay.
And I think it's better to wait. With Kerber, it's better to wait and see how she's getting on, how she's working her way through the draw. Because with Kerber, I think she's one of these players that is more reliable to be backed when she gets to the business end of a tournament than. From the start, especially that sort of price. The price won't shorten that much if she gets to the quarterfinals. If she's looking good, that's when to back her, because only herself and Serena have proven to be the reliable players when they get to the business end of a Grand Slam.
There's one other girl, Smeg, that I was interested in just looking at it from my point of view, is the world number 1, Simona Halep, of course, who's the French Open champion. Yeah. She got to the final of this last year, lost to Wozniacki, of course, in that final. But am I missing something, that the fact that she's around the 18-1, 20-1 mark to win this outright?
Oh, well, she's been out injured for the last a few months, and she's only come back. She's won one match, or she played one match. She lost to Barty.
So a few months out is enough.
Yeah, exactly. Even It's still it's hardcore tennis as well. It's not the clay court. Yes, she got to the final final last year, and was really, really, really unlucky. But to because she came in goose. She had an epic semi-final against Kerber. She had an epic 4th round match against Lauren Davis, her 3rd round match. So she had a lot of mileage done, and she was just tired against Wozniacki. But look, like 18-1, even if she was fit, it would be value if you knew that she was fully fit.
Okay.
But I still don't. No, I don't think you could touch it, considering that no form, no injuries.
And sorry, before you give us your calls, one other dart I was maybe prepared to throw is the US Open champion. People all probably saw her more than ever after the row with Serena's outburst, so on, is Naomi Osaka. Is there something in her around the 14-16-1 mark, or is there just a kind of a question mark over her record in general against the top players?
Yeah,
is that now gone because she beat Serena in a Grand Slam final?
Well, to be fair, when I wouldn't worry too much about a record against the top players. Like, in the quarter, she beat Arina Sabalenka. In the Sabalenka was really, really hot, and she came through against Sabalenka in the US Open. That was a big win for her. She hammered Keys, she hammered and she hammered Serena, really. But the thing about it is, I actually have her backed at 50-1. I backed her in the middle of the US Open to win this tournament at 50-1. So that is, from my own personal point of view, the bet I'm most hopeful about. I really like. But at 14-1, I don't think to follow up back-to-back Grand Slams. You don't often see it with young players being able to do that, so I can't see that as being value, at least. But
okay, so who are your tips for the outright Australian Open women's?
Well, look, just if you think, we didn't really mention Serena there, with Serena in 9-2, she's 2-1 in Ladbrokes to win her quarter, but this quarter is absolutely stacked with players like Pliskova, Halep, Muguruza, Kasatkina, Georgie, Venus, Bouchard, Suarez Navarro is another one. It's a tough quarter, but
her record is sensational here. 7 finals, 6 wins, same as Federer, actually, same record.
It's incredible. I'm tempted by the 2-1 on her tip, because she looked good at the Hopman Cup on her to get through that quarter, because even if you think about it, Halep, question marks over her, Muguruza, question marks over her, Kasatkina coming in bad form. As stacked as it is, there's a lot of question marks over those players, and I think her draw.
2-1 to reach the semis, is it?
Yeah. Now 2-1 to reach the semis. She'd surely beat Tatiana Maria, Eugenie Bouchard, Suarez Navarro, and then it's probably Halep or Venus, and then maybe Pliskova is probably the one she'd be most scared of in the quarter final. But considering how she beat Pliskova comfortably in the US Open last year, I have to say I think that I'm going to go 1 point on Serena to get through that quarter.
1 point, Serena Williams to win her quarter. Okay.
She's hungry for this to get her 24th, and she knows time's running out, and she looked good at Hopman Cup. So and plus, these are players that she's taken care of. She's reached the final of the last 2 Grand Slams. 2-1 is not a bad value. So anyway, as far as the outrights going for me, I have to say there's one price that it's just very hard to find massive value overall, but there's one price I do quite like. I think it's just about value. I'm going to put a half point each way, and that's on the American Madison Keys to win the Australian Open. Okay. Keys has
sorry, what price is
40-1 with Paddy Power.
41 powers,
40-1 Paddy Power. And the reason I'm going to be picking Keys is basically, look, I think she has over the last 18 months or so proven her pedigree at Grand Slam level. More so than a lot of the players that are shorter prices than her in her draw. She has she's been to this. She's been to the final of the US Open in 2017. She's been to the semi-final of the French last year. She was in the semi-final of the US Open.
She reached the semi-final. This is a few years ago as well, is it?
She reached the semi-final last year in the US Open.
No, in the Australian Open.
She reached the semi-final Australian Open 2015.
Okay,
so she has the pedigree, and generally I would have made her more of a 25-1 shot. She does, she can get nervous in the big games, and she can be a bit of an unforced error machine at times too. But considering her pedigree, and she's coming in. I've seen an interview with her. She pre-tournament, and she seems to be very relaxed and seems to be very motivated. I think 40-1 is just about value there. Easy enough first few rounds. Aeva and Papatova should take care of them. I think she has to beat the Mertens, and then potentially a match against Svitolina in the quarters, fourth round.
Very good. Okay, so half point each way. Madison Keys at 40-1. Have you another one?
Another one, yeah. I'm gonna pop for Stevens again at 25s. I just think it's good.
You love her.
I do love her. Yeah. She's been good to me over the years, but I think it's just considering her draw and considering. Once again, considering her talents, she's in Kerber's quarter, right? And she actually hasn't, she hasn't a bad draw. She's got Townsend in the first round. She got to the WTA finals.
She has a Grand Slam under her belt.
She has a Grand Slam under her belt. Already won the US Open. She's got to the French Open final last year. She got to the quarterfinals. She had a bit of a stinker against Sevastova in the quarterfinals of the US Open, really, and she is always capable of that stinker. But at 25-1, I think the pressure's off her a little bit now.
Okay.
And I think she's, considering that she's in a softer quarter with potential matchup against Kerber. I think it's worth a half point each way on Stevens as well.
Half point each way on Sloane Stevens at 25-1. Good stuff, Smeg. That's some good outright bets. Is there any more quarter bets, or do you want to get straight into the first round matches?
I have one more quarter bet. Yeah, one more. Actually, two more quarter bets if you don't mind. But I'll just run through them very quickly. I'm gonna pipe for Team again to win his quarter, because I know I tipped him up at 50-1, but I'm just worried obviously that he'll be playing Djokovic in the semi-final. So I think at 15-2 with Sky Bet to win his quarter. I've already kind of outlined the reasons why I think he's value at 50s. 15-2 to win his quarter. Obviously Zverev is the main danger.
It's quarter two, yeah. So sorry, what's your stake on him? 1
point at 15-2 to win his quarter. I think it's quite short everywhere else. 4-1, 5-1. So 15-2 is value.
15-2 with who?
With Sky Bet to win his quarter.
Very good.
And then I'm just going to pipe for a bit of an outsider in Rogers' quarter, which is of course the third quarter. I'm going to pop for Basilashvili, the Georgian player. I don't know if you know him, Nicholas Basilashvili.
Okay.
He's 66-1 to win his quarter. And considering, like, Basilashvili in the last 6 months has really proved himself. He's in Beijing. He took out Edmund in the semi-final, and he beat Del Potro in the final to win that. He won a clay court tournament. I think it was Hamburg. He got to the fourth round of the US Open and took a set off Nadal, and it was really impressive. He's a really talented player. Can be a bit of a head case at times, but just considering the progress he's made in the last 6 months or so, I think there's a chance. I'm not convinced by Roger. Remember Roger at 5-6.
So what are you trying, a half point on that?
Just a half point on Nicholas Basilashvili, because I just think it represents a bit of value.
Very good. Any other men's ones?
No other quarter betting.
So is there quarter betting that you've got flagged up for the women's? Or is
do you know something? Not really. I know. Okay. No, I have to say not really. I just have a quick look. Bautista good at 20s is a bit of value actually in Rogers' quarter too, but I'm just going with Basilashvili. I think in the women's quarters, it's maybe I'll tell you what, I'm going to go 1 point on Sabalenka. I think she's the real deal. 7-2 to win her quarter. Barty's in that quarter. I think Sabalenka took care of Barty in China this year, in the final in China this year. Kvitova is in that quarter, but Kvitova just won in Sydney. Actually, we actually had her tipped her up in the final against Barty. Got quite lucky actually, because she won in final set tiebreak. But Kvitova, especially after she wins these kind of warm-up tournaments, always seems to mess up in the Grand Slams. It's been happening for years now, so I don't fear her that much. Wozniacki, defending champion, but has had her injury problems, struggling to get back in form. I think Sabalenka is the real deal. I think Barty is a little bit overrated, and definitely isn't mentally strong. I think there's mental strength issues with Barty. I think 1 point to Sabalenka to get through that quarter. I think she's the real deal.
So quarter three, Sabalenka.
Quarter three, Sabalenka.
What's best price?
7-2 with Powers. But I do think that it's a good 7-2. I think she has a very good chance to get through that quarter.
Okay.
So that's the quarter bets done with.
So match bets first round, is it? Is that where we're...
Match bets first round, yeah.
Okay,
so let's go with the match bets first round. First of all, we're going to go with Novak Djokovic. His first match is against Mitchell Kreuger. Mitchell Kreuger is a very, very average journeyman, and he made it through. He had an easy enough qualifying route, and he made it through each of his matches in 3 sets, I think, and he came from behind. One thing about him is you can't deny the fella's heart, his conviction. And he's a good fighter. He's a good on-court fighter, but he's very, very average. He's got no weapons to hurt Djokovic. So I really think that match under 26.5 games, Novak is going to beat this guy fairly, very handily. So under 26.5 games, he's got nothing to hurt Djokovic with. Djokovic will want to hit the ground running, and I think the Djokovic B game, maybe even the C game, will be able to get this done on under 27 games against.
So under 27 games, and what price that? Close to?
It's 8-11.
8-11.
3 points.
3 points.
8-11 with TalkSport.
And that's with best price TalkSport.
Yeah. And now the Roger match. Roger's playing against Dennis Istomin. I'm going to go the other way around with Dennis Istomin. If you just think that there's one extra game, Roger this match is at 8-11 is over 27.5 games. Now Istomin is a quality player.
It's over 20.
It's over 27.5 games. Once again, 8-11 with TalkSport.
Okay.
Now I think Istomin is a quality player. In fairness, if you think about it, he won 2 events. Two kind of a challenger events in Chicago and Kazakhstan just on the closing end of last season. He's beaten, I remember a couple of years ago he beat Djokovic in the Australian Open, and then he followed up by beating Carreño Busta. He took a set off Kyrgios at Wimbledon. He's had some good wins over the years. He's beaten the likes of Almagro at Wimbledon and Anderson at Wimbledon and Wawrinka at Wimbledon. This is recent enough years, and even in the last 2 times he's played Federer, in Bastad and Harcourt, both went to 3 sets. He won the first set in each one. Yeah. So over 27.5 games.
And like even for that mark, he doesn't even have to win a set. If Federer won says 7-5, 6-3, 6-2.
7-5, 6-3. If you can just manage to get one of the sets to 7-5, 7-6, you have to think that
you're in the overs games there.
Yeah.
Very good. How many points in that? Sorry,
just 3 points in that. 8-11.
Okay.
So then we are going to another bet. I'm liking Venus at 4-6.
So we're on to the women's matches.
There'll be a few more men's matches in a short while, but we actually don't have that many bets really. But I'm liking Venus at 4-6 to beat Buzarnescu.
So straight win at 4-6.
Straight win at 4-6.
Yeah.
Once again with TalkSport. I think there's a lot of ageism going on regarding this price. Venus definitely does seem to be in decline. There's no doubt that she is in decline. But when you think about it, even last year she still got to the 3rd round of US Open and was, she beat Camilla Giorgi in the 2nd round, which was a very good win. She's had some good wins already this season, where she beat Azarenka in, I think it was Auckland, WTA Auckland, and Lauren Davis, and lost to Andreescu in 3 sets, who's a very good player. So that's good form. Buzarnescu is only coming back from injury, and I know she had some, she was a bit of a giant killer last year, but she hasn't won a match in ages.
Okay.
And all we have to go by her form is that she took a set off Belinda Bencic. Okay. So I think you got to be back in Venus there at 4-6.
Are you staking? Once you stake
3 points, just 3 points. There's no match bet that I'm just so confident about that I can go 4 or 5 points.
Yeah.
I'm going to be totally honest with you.
Yep.
The next bet is on Makarova 4-6 to beat Boulter. That's with Bet365 or Katie Boulter.
So Makarova
is at 4-6 to beat Katie Boulter.
And is that same 3 points in her?
3 points, 4-6, yeah. 2 points to win 2. For me, what Makarova just tends to be underpriced, because Makarova is one of these players that she always brings her A game to the Grand Slams, and then for the rest of the year sort of just fannies about and just wins matches here and there, but doesn't really, she just seems to always. She even said at Wimbledon last year in an interview, after beating Wozniacki, she goes, I don't know what it is. It's just the Grand Slams bring that out of me.
Yeah.
So I think she, like Katie Boulter, has so much to prove to beat Makarova at 4-6. Like Katie Boulter lost her compatriot Naomi Brody in the US Open qualifiers recently.
Yeah.
She won a match at Wimbledon last year, but she beat Begu. Begu beat herself. And Osaka then hammered Katie Boulter then. So I think, Makarova, you think about it in the last few years, she's beaten Wozniacki twice in the US Open, Wimbledon. She's beaten the likes of Gorgas at US Open last year. Generally, when she's beaten by a good player in the Grand Slam. So I think at 4-6, she has all the pedigree. Boulter has it all to prove. 3 points, Makarova.
Good stuff.
Makarova. We're nearly done now regarding the match bets. If you want a good parlay bet, 3.5 points to win 3 points. I think Osaka, Camilla Giorgi, Schwartzman and Kevin Anderson are all good bets.
Is this an accum?
This is an accumulator, just one accumulator.
So
I don't really usually do accumulators, but in Grand Slams, this to me is the banker accumulator.
So what are you saying, Kevin Anderson?
Yeah, Kevin Anderson, he's going to beat Manarino. Kevin Anderson just has a brilliant attitude. There's no way he's going to have a letdown, and he has beaten Manarino. Schwartzman is going to play Molliker, who did very well to get through qualifier, but just struggled to beat the likes of Ramanathan and Otto. Just got through it. And Schwartzman is going to be a class above. Georgie also is going to be a class above Jakubovic. She looked very good against Kerber last week when she lost in two tight sets. And Osaka is just once again class above Lynette. I think Osaka is motivated. She was very angry with herself against when she lost in Brisbane against Karenka in the semi-final. I think she's going to be motivated now in this Australian Open. So all those guys, I think, are bankers. 3.5 points and to win 3 points, and that's with Totsport.
Okay.
And the last double I'm going to do, if you don't mind, one more double, 2.5 points on Donna Vekic and Sei, Hseih. I don't even know how to pronounce it. She's from I think Taiwan.
Spell it again. Hseih.
It's a double. Donna Vekic is playing Mladenovic. Donna Vekic has been very good. She had a great run actually last week. Well, actually, she had a great one last week. Jeez, I have it written down here somewhere. Where she got to the semi-finals of Brisbane, I think.
Okay.
And then.
So what price is that double?
The double is basically 4 to 5. 4 to 5. And Sei as well. She's playing Vogel. Vogel is an absolute head case. Sei has been in good form. Sei has just been quoted recently that she's feeling better than she's been feeling for a very long time.
Yeah.
No more back pain. Sei is going to beat Vogel. Vogel is just too much of a head case. She's not going to like Sei's style either. Vekic is playing Mladenovic. Mladenovic has just been really, really struggling. I know she has a 2-0 head-to-head against Vekic, but that was when Vekic was really young back in 2014. So I just fancy both of them to get through their matches. 2.5 at 4 points. And very quickly, I'm just going to end it on this. I'm thinking maybe this season. I'm thinking maybe 1 point on Ostapenko at 6 to 4 to beat Sakari. Now Ostapenko, she's coming in here in no form, but generally she does sort of bring her form for the Grand Slams.
She won a French. She won the French
2 years ago. Yeah, she won the French 2 years ago. But last year she got to win. We can't forget she got to the Wimbledon semi-final last year.
So what price she in this match?
She's 6 to 4 to beat Sakari, who's a tough competitor, no doubt about it. But I just have a feeling, just for 1 point, I just don't think Ostapenko should be that much of an underdog. And Bogdan as well, 5 to 2. Bogdan is a very she's playing this Polish superstar who won the Wimbledon qualifiers, Wimbledon juniors, and just waltzed through qualifying as well, called Swiatek. But at 5 to 2, Bogdan at 5 to 2 to beat her. Swiatek has been on an unbelievable run. She's won like 20 of her last 22 matches, but she's played at a very different level. And Bogdan is sort of a level above, and at 5 to 2, she's won a few Grand Slam matches in the last couple of years. She beat Buzkova in the US Open. I think 5 to 2 is a little bit big. I think it's worth a point stake on Bogdan to beat Swiatek.
Brilliant stuff, Smeg. There are all your bets. I just have a quick recap on them. Yeah, that's them all, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, quick recap on the outright betting in the men's market. A half point each way on Dominic Thiem at 50 to 1. In the women's outright market, a half point each way on Madison Keys at 40 to 1, and a half point each way on Sloane Stephens at 25 to 1. In the quarter betting, in the women's, Serena Williams to win her quarter, 1 point at 2 to 1. Also 1 point on Zabalenka at 7 to 2. A half point dart thrown at Basilashvili at 66 to 1. And finally, the quarter bets, 1 point on Thiem at 15 to 2 to win his quarter. There are the outright bets with the first round matches coming up Sunday night, Monday night for our European listeners. First round, we have a 3.5 point accum on Anderson, Schwarzman, Georgia and Osaka at 5-6. We have a 2.5 point double win on Heise and Donikevich. We have then Donovekic, sorry. We have a 3-point win on Venus Williams at 4-6. 3 points on Makarova win at 4-6. 3 points on Djokovic's game to go under 27 at 8-11. We have 3 points on Federer's game to go over 27, also at 8-11. And finally, 2 1-point bets placed and a win for Ostapenko at 6-4 and Bogdan at 5-2.
That's the lot. So before we finish the podcast here, I have to say, I have to find that it was a tough draw to compare to the US Open. I mean, a great US Open regarding the betting. It was a tough draw to find value in, but look, we're hopeful anyway, and I just think those prices are just about value. Anyway, just to finish it off, we're talking about the next time we're going to have a podcast. We have the National League, GAA, Gaelic Football and Hurling starting up. We've also got the Champions League last 16 to look forward to. Ronnie, what are your thoughts on those for our next podcast?
Yes, well, the National Hurling and National Football Leagues both start in 2 weeks' time, the last weekend in January, so it's very soon. You have the Champions League last 16, a couple of weeks after that, so we will try and find some value in some outright betting in the Champions League, and also some outright bets for as you said, the both leagues, which start in 2 weeks. So we'll have a podcast up and running within the next fortnight for that. But keep an eye on our Twitter page as usual at Mugs Game Podcast, because throughout the Australian Open, Smeg will also have daily tips on second, third, maybe fourth round matches. So
I expect there to be more value then. I was looking through the draw and I've got my eye on a few bets, so just keep an eye out on the Twitter page. And of course, guys, if you like the podcast, please share it on your Twitter page or your Facebook page, your WhatsApp groups. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Mugs Game Podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at Mug Podcast as well. We're also available to download on Stitcher and iTunes. And if you've got any questions or queries, make sure you tweet at us and we'll be in touch.
Brilliant stuff. Thanks, guys.
Good luck, folks.